I'm Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I have a PhD in English literature. They focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have another Victober video for you, and I will be reviewing The Rich Husband by Charlotte Riddell. This is a novel originally released in 1858. It was Riddell's third novel, published by Charles Skeat in 3 volumes under a pseudonym. I cannot find whether it was her most common pseudonym of F.G. Trafford or if it was one of her other ones, but it was not under her own name. It was then re-released in a new edition in 1867 by her new publishers, the Tinsley brothers, after her George Gaith of Fencourt became really famous, and it was then published under her name, Mrs. J.H. Riddell. So I just wanted to make that clear because there was actually some confusion, because I know the cover of the book says, that I'm using, says 1867, but the original publication date is 1858. The subtitle is a novel of real life. However, this is really a sensation novel before the sensation genre was formally considered a thing. However, it deals with a lot of similar themes as sensation novels, and there are some very similar aspects that you will see throughout this book. It is very melodramatic, and yeah. So the plot is complex. So we are following the descendants of the Riddell sisters. Now, the Riddell family is basically cursed that all members of it will be terrible flirts and will jilt their lovers and therefore ruin their lives. Is this a stupid concept? Yes, I am aware. Yes, it is a kind of stupid concept. I know. So the main characters that we are following are Judith, who is the daughter of one of the Riddell sisters. And we are seeing her as she becomes a young woman, marries the rich husband of the title, Mr. Mazingford, and has a very unhappy marriage. We also have Evan and Alice, who are the grandchildren of one of the original Miss Riddell's. And their mother, Miss Lestock, had married below her station and been disinherited by her father. Ended up really not loving her husband. And when he died, her father said, "I will take you back if you take back your maiden name and you abandon your children." So she abandons her children, Evan and Alice, and we are seeing them make their way in the world. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the major themes, and one of the biggest ones, probably the biggest one, is the power dynamics within marriage. Very common theme for sensation novels. We see it in The Woman in White, we see it in Lady Audley's Secret, we see it in literally almost all of them. We see it in Salem Chapel by Margaret Oliphant. So we see very few happy marriages, particularly at the beginning of this novel. So the grandmother of Evan and Alice, Lady Lestock, at one point says, "If heaven had sent me a husband, not a master." So there is this constant theme of this husbands being above their wives and the wives kind of being enslaved, basically. And we see this play out with Judith and Mr. Mazingford. We are told early on in their marriage, thereupon ensued the first pitched battle between them. But Judith sat down before the fortress on her rights and compelled him to surrender. Judith is very strong-willed. Mazingford wants to break her, and she is refusing to be broken. So they are just constantly at odds with each other. Describing her smile at him, It had a kind of settled contempt and indomitable defiance, an immovable determination. When she drew her lips into that frigid, sarcastic smile and settled her eyes on him with that fixed stare of ridicule and disdain, he could have struck her to the earth. It was the first thing Judith discovered to have power over him. So he has a ton of power over her. She is trying to get some power over him. At one point, she says, "Mr. Mazingford wishes it, and I am his automaton. I do not sing, he does. I am merely his instrument." Because she marries him for money, that's why he's the rich husband, he has this power over her and is able to manipulate her into doing whatever he wants because he's holding all these strings. Riddell writes, "He contrived to let everybody into the secret that if Judith had been plain, he would never have conferred the distinction of Mrs. Mazingford upon her. He made everyone comprehend he was rich, she poor, he possessed of influence, she innocent of position, he lord, she slave, he the magnificent sultan, she the English Georgian, whom he had bought for her fine points, but with whose general conduct and disposition he felt by no means satisfied." This constant power struggle within marriage, very much critiquing how marriage worked at the time and the position of women within it. Connected to this is also money. Money is always a very big deal in Riddell's books. Like, things happen for money. Everything revolves around money. Judith eventually becomes a writer trying to make some money of her own. Riddell writes, "She was spinning her brains into books to give sight to her sister. Her sister, Lillian, is going blind. Fame she did not want, her art she did not love, but money she required, and money she was determined to have." Also see money playing a part in why Mr. Mazingford is even introduced to Judith in the first place. He is a friend of her father, but he is not on the same social status as them. He is the son of a middle-class professional, but he has a ton of money, whereas the Riddells, Judith's family, are impoverished gentry, basically. So her father says, "I would keep better company than the upstart son of a low-born attorney, but good luck, money works wonders. And Henry Riddell is proud to receive the master of Waver Hall when he would have kept his father from him at an arm's length. Money, money, always money." Riddell is also looking a lot at the ideas of fate and destiny. So we have this family curse that is so stupid. I cannot even tell you how stupid that concept is, but it's fine. When Judith is born on this horribly stormy night, her mother dies in childbirth with her. Her nurse says of her, "Oh, no, she will go through life battling her way. I see it written across her face. I see it there, a copy of what is traced by no human fingers in the book of fate. Child," she continued, raising her yellow hand almost menacingly above the tiny creature, "beware." So she's got this kind of bad prophecy upon her from birth. And as she grows, we are told that she has this stain or curse from the Riddell family. The essences which had descended through generations in the Riddell family were strong within her, as if nature had only concocted them that minute instead of centuries previously. There they were, ready to be mixed together any day, at hand to assist in working out whatever mischief the young beauty pleased. The plague spot was on her. A pin's point covered the cancer then. She might have rooted the evil out. She might have arrested its further progress. She might have cast the accursed thing from her, had she only acknowledged to herself that it was an evil. But she nourished and petted and watched the plant of ill omen. till it spread and put out branches and grew into a goodly tree, which she was impotent to cut down or escape from the shadow of. This was the weak point in that otherwise lovable nature, the stain that blackened one portion of her character, the solitary defect which rendered her, spite of Mr. Riddell's excusable vanity, imperfect. This had been the bane of her race. This was the curse. And her Aunt Millicent similarly tells her, "You are of our race and of our blood, and that taint which was in us is now in you." So we kind of have like this inevitable family curse. It's like the sins of the father affecting the child kind of idea, which is very common in Gothic literature, which sensation literature takes some concepts from. Final theme that I want to talk about is of writing. So throughout the book, Riddell has this kind of analogy of human life as a book. She tells us, "There is one book every individual in creation is certain to print and publish. Thousands upon thousands are daily completed, thousands upon thousands daily begun." What a huge volume it seems, and yet when we have perused it from the first page to the concluding one, when what was once the future has become the past, into how small a compass may not all the bitter truths and weary lessons we have gathered out of it be condensed? A volume for the one, a paragraph for the other, pages of promise, a sentence of fulfillment 80 years and 10 to gather the diffuse contents of the first, an hour or less of sorrowful recollection to master the events of the last. When a character is on their deathbed, Riddell writes, "It was but natural that at the moment when she had just seen the end written by the hand of the mighty King of Terrors on the last leaf of a human volume, when she had finished another dreary chapter in the record of her own autobiography, she should pause to review the contents of both." She also says, "True love forms only one chapter in the lives of any, and yet still how it seems to influence the incidents of every future page in the lives of all. What a strong light, dark or sunshiny, as the case may be, it flings on every line, on every word written throughout the remainder of the mortal missal." So this is like really a beautiful analogy that carries through the entire novel. And it is there because writing and becoming a writer is such a big part of Judith's character arc. And what really interested me here is how this compares with Riddell's later novel, A Struggle for Fame, from 1883, which is also about a young woman who becomes a writer. And we see very similar ideas in both books, that what's required for someone to be a successful writer is both genius and perseverance. And Judith in The Rich Husband, as well as Glenn in A Struggle for Fame, they have both. So we are told of Judith, perhaps the girl had talent, or perhaps she had none. The brief production did not resemble that of a boarding school miss, or of a well-informed woman of moderate ability. It was more like the disjointed labors of a lunatic, an unconnected, crude collection of words, apparently with some meaning in them, which, however, even their author barely comprehended. There was genius in that bald, unfinished sketch, though could Miss Riddell have found it, genius which only wanted wakening to be resistless, which only required cultivation and clothing to be universally recognized. So this idea that genius is innate in a person, but it does need to be cultivated. Like, you're not just going to write something and it's immediately wonderful, but there is that talent that is there that needs to be nourished and cultivated and molded. Quietly but incessantly, the steady hand pursued its labors over sheets of paper, through bottles of ink, slowly and wearily, for the knack of composition did not lie in Judith's fingers. It abode in her brain, and for want of practice and experience, she had trouble in drawing it thence down to the tip of her pen. It was easier for her to think than say, therefore her thoughts were but imperfectly represented by her words. She had never been much of a scribbler, even in a letter writing sense. Never been given to poetry, never had even tried an essay. She started in the race of authorship without a minute's preparation for the task. She scarcely understood what she had to do till she was in the midst of the fray, trying to fight it out as bravely as the rest. She pursued that as she had never pursued aught else, not for love of itself truly, but for love of what it did bring, for the money it might win, not for her, but for those dear to her. Again, money. We see her constantly practicing, constantly writing. This idea that you have to actually do the thing and do it a lot to become good at it. Which is interesting considering how Victorians sometimes viewed this concept of overproduction and how it actually would harm your writing. That's a big part of my dissertation. I won't go into that right now, but that's why this theme is so particularly interesting to me. And she does not get success right away. We are told, for like all who ever attain any success worth possessing, Judith found the first part of her road rough and stony, strewed with rejections, bordered with thorny criticisms, rendered difficult by unsuspected obstacles. She, in common with most other young authors, thought she had nothing to do save write and be paid, but she soon found out her mistake. Her first rejection revealed the delusion to her. So again, even when you have genius, it's not just automatic success. So in solitude, she perfected herself in an art which some think comes more by nature than by practice. So by patient perseverance, she improved herself in the cunning of her trade, so she came to feel at last the strength and power of her genius. So this idea you need the perseverance with the genius to become a successful author. I was so thrilled to see that theme come up in one of her very early works because I had been writing about it in A Struggle for Fame. So, what did I think of the book as a whole? It is flawed. As I said, the concept of the Riddell family curse is just stupid. Like, it really is. I'm sorry. It's hard to take seriously. However, it is a very fun book. I enjoyed reading it. I liked the character of Judith a lot and was really rooting for her and became invested in her struggles with Mr. Mazingford and her struggles to become an author. I do think that Riddell tried to do too much. It's too spread out. I mean, we start like a few generations before the main characters for like the first 100 pages of the book almost. Especially with the Evan and Alice plot lines, she just tried to pull way too many things together. So I don't think it is the most successful novel I've ever read, definitely not. I also do not think that it is like a Victorian must read. Like, if you're gonna read one book by Charlotte Riddell, don't read The Rich Husband, read A Struggle for Fame. However, if you are interested in portrayals of the writer, particularly of the woman writer, I think this is a good place to go. If you are interested in the development of the sensation novel, I think this might be an interesting one to look at. And if you are interested in the dynamics of marriage and the power imbalance, Judith and Mr. Mazingford are an interesting couple to look at. So, not a must read, but I do think there is a lot of value in it. And I'm like, I wouldn't not recommend it, but I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend it. Like, I would recommend it for very specific things, I think is what I'm saying. Like, if you had very specific interests. But for just somebody looking to pick up a piece of Victorian literature, I would not recommend it. However, I did really like it. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's flawed. It's a very early novel. A third of like 40 something. And it was really fun to see how she has developed from her early portrayal of a woman writer to her much later portrayal of a woman writer. So that is my review of The Rich Husband by Charlotte Riddell. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read it? What did you think of it? Or are you considering picking it up? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It has been great chatting with you. I will see you soon. Bye.